Another Friday safety focus of the week. Today is October 20th. This week's code of conduct is to maintain cleanliness and conditions of our vehicle and our equipment. Very important. Making sure our equipment is working properly and up to spec. Anything to add to this code item, Bendau?
Yep, take care of it as if it is your own.
Very important. Good day to make sure you clean out all the trash.
Yep.
Today.
Yeah, we got that vacuum cleaner that's easy to skip right through the shop and hook up and clean your cab.
And make sure we grease it first thing this morning, or actually at the end of the day, right? When the equipment is nice and warm, takes grease easier. All right, nice job the last week. We're up to 170 days from our last recordable injury. And it's been 17 days from our last first aid injury. So good job so far this week. We got one more day. We conquered Friday the 13th last week, so that's a good sign. So let's conquer this Friday. Let's work safe. Start the day off with a nice JHA. Communicate those hazards. Let's work together as a team to solve some problems and get some good productive work done safely. With that said, we're going to kick it over to Tom Pigeon, and he's going to kind of educate us and remind us on some best practices regarding trailer safety. So take it away, Tom.
You see that?
Yes.
All right, perfect. We're gonna be talking about trailer safety today.
Looks like you're not full screen for your PowerPoint though. We see the
My mouse
different
is
images
stuck.
on the side, the different windows.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. So we're going to talk about defensive driving, your weight, pre-trips, and load securement today. So defensive driving, we're going to follow the same principles that we talked about quite a bit. It's just important to remember that you have increased stopping distance and you're going to have fewer places to go. So where you might normally be able to merge and get out of the way of something, you might be stuck in the lane that you're in. So just make sure that you're looking way down the road, looking as far as you can and planning for the worst case scenario as you drive. Being alert constantly is big. You have larger blind spots, so you might have cars come up in weird places that you don't expect. When you're turning corners, you might not be able to see everything as well as you normally would, and when you're backing up, it's significantly worse. You want to increase your following distance, and like I said, look far ahead. You want to decrease your speed. We shouldn't have distractions while we're driving anyway, but you want to limit them. If you have a passenger, try to avoid conversation that you're getting too involved in that might make you think about things other than the road. And remember, you're towing a giant billboard, so just keep that in mind as you drive. People do love to call and complain about driving. So first thing next thing we're talking about is weight. So everything that you're towing must be within their gross vehicle weight rating. So most of our trailers are either 9,999 pounds. Either they're derated or they're underneath that just in how they're built. It's also important to follow your what you have for a axle rating on those. So if you have two 3,500 pound axles and you're only going to be towing 7,000 pounds in total, you're obviously below the 9,999. Once you get over 10,000 pounds, then the trailer is added on to the GVWR of the truck. So the 26,000 pounds is the cutoff for needing a CDL Class A. So if you have a CDL Class B, you can tow with a dump truck, a large dump truck, a quarry trailer is derated to 9,999 pounds. But the minute that you go over to 10,001 pounds on the trailer, then you now need a Class A CDL. So we're just going to talk about the pre-trip. That's the base part of this. So first thing you want to do is you want to perform a 360. You want to make sure that everything looks good. You don't have any major rot rust repairs that need to be made. That's going to negatively affect the trailer and make it unsafe for the road. So you're just going to walk all the way around it, looking for anything that looks out of place, looks dangerous. Make sure everything's securely fastened. Make sure your decking's good, and make sure your jack's securely up. I've seen a couple times that the pin's hanging and not clipped in all the way, so that could pop out on the road, and then the jack would drag and break off. So you want to check your tires and lugs. You want to make sure your lugs are obviously tight, no rust streaks or anything like that. You want to make sure your tires are properly inflated, that you have adequate tread, no dry rot, weather checking, bulging, anything like that. No gouges or cuts. And if you have a spare, make sure you check it. If you have a single axle trailer, as I learned the hard way, you probably want to make sure you get a spare from the shop before you leave. You want to make sure your chains are free of wear. They don't need to cross, but sometimes it's easier to cross them to keep them from dragging on the ground, because once they start to get the drag marks, DOT will put you out of service. And DOT is going to be cracking down on these smaller trailers. You want to make sure they're not touching the ground and securely hooked to the truck, not the hitch. So you just want to make sure all your lights are functioning all the way around. Without your headlights on, because you're going to have your running lights on the trailer, and it's going to affect your brake light setup. You want to make sure you have an adequate ground. If they're kind of fading in and out, then you want to go talk to the shop and ask for assistance as needed, like with any of these things. With your brakes, that's the big thing. You want to securely attach to the truck. I have a clevis on my truck, right in where you hook the chains. Holds it really well. You don't want to hook it into your pin like you see over there. Once you get in the truck, you want to make sure that it's registering on your brake controller. If you don't have a brake controller, you shouldn't be towing a trailer with trailer brakes. One thing DOT is definitely going to be doing is tug testing. So they're going to either put a multimeter on the battery on the trailer, or they're going to have you unplug the pigtail from the truck. They're going to pull the brake away, and they're going to have you try to drive. Make sure that the trailer stays still. So you should be doing that before you leave as well. And then before you leave, you just want to set the gain. So usually what I do is drive 5 miles an hour or so through the yard, tap the brake controller, and I want it to slow me down but not lock up and drag. So you want to make sure your load's secured, and you want to use the proper chains and straps. If you don't know what the proper chains and straps are, ask somebody. You want to use proper securement points, and you want to check regularly. I usually strap it down, check before I leave. And then check everywhere that I stop. Loads will shift, and you just want to keep your straps tight. And that wraps it up for today.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Tom. I have just one thing to add just to your really good PowerPoint, was just making sure we sweep all the stones, debris off all of our trailers. We've been getting a lot of calls for stones leaving trailers lately. Make sure we're
Okay.
sweeping good.
Yep. One other follow-up as well. You didn't mention the weight restrictions on the road as a restriction. So the way I look at it usually is that you have the vehicle has its restrictions, you have the registration would have limitations, the roadway would have the limitation, and the driver has limitations. So good presentation. All right.
I'm trying to
I'll switch-
unshare right now.
Okay. I'll try to take
My
over.
mouse is stuck, so I'm just gonna leave.
Here we go.
Okay, let me see if is this the screen I want? You see my screen?
We have it.
All right. Okay, trailer safety. And for announcements this week, there was an email that went out, a global email announcement sent out this week regarding Medicare prescription drug plans for anyone looking to transition to Medicare in the near future. So if you didn't receive that email and you're in that situation, please check with the administrative office. And October, again, a reminder, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so support the cause with ECI swag, especially the bright pink. All looks good. Check with Sarah. If you want a shirt, $10 each, or sweatshirt, all proceeds go to the UVM Cancer Foundation. So new employees, we have Stephen LaBelle here. He's in the fleet maintenance group. And Donald McKenzie, he's the concrete crew. Whoops, he's sliding past him a little fast there. So welcome both Stephen and Donald. I've met Stephen, I haven't met Donald yet. I have a link to the primary care wellness program, and this week we're talking about the Burlington Airport South Apron improvements. And Eric, are you out there? Eric, welcome.
I am.
Good. Well, I hope I moved that photo to the right spot. I got confused after I put it together last night. I emailed you, but I didn't hear back, so I just fired it off the way I had it.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. Okay, do you want to take over, or do you want me to just scroll ahead?
You can just scroll ahead and I'll read.
Okay, I'll slide it up a little further here, right to there. How's that?
Looks good. So ECI has been contracted by the city of Burlington to construct an extension of taxiway G and new general aviation south apron at the Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport. The project is being built to service the new 140,000 square foot Beta manufacturing facility, which is where Beta will be producing their electric airplanes. Beta plans to construct another 140,000 square foot building, which will be attached to the existing building within the next 3 years. The apron is being built to accommodate both buildings and is 192,000 square feet or 4.4 acres in size.
That's a big building.
It's a big building. Big apron too.
Yep. So this is just the cover sheet of our contract.
So the project's had multiple challenges to overcome since it was bid. The project was bid in August of 22, and because of permit and funding issues, the contract was not signed until May of 23. At that point, ECI had already acquired enough work for the 2023 construction season, and we had to seek out a subcontractor to perform the drainage scope for the project in order to meet the new schedule, which was to provide Beta some sort of access over the new apron this year. There was water line and storm drain that needed to be installed inside and under the airport side of fence. In order to be allowed inside the side of fence to work, a person must be badged or be within 50 feet of a badged person, which is called an escort. An application, online training, and airside ride with BTV ops was required to obtain a SIDA badge. The water line was located along a taxiway, so there were restrictions on where we could put our spoil piles and the heights of those piles. When we installed the water line across the apron, we had to shut down the taxiway, which involved temporary striping and installation of barricades. Temporary striping was for the planes on an alternate route that they had to use while the taxiway was shut down. When we were installing our utilities through the side of fence, TSA needed 72 hours notice for fence removal, and the fence needed to be reinstalled and inspected by BTV ops at the end of each day. So I think the next few photos are just some of the storm installations. So the whole stormwater system connection was here at an existing drain manhole. This was probably one of the deepest structures I've ever seen. Rim to invert was 26 feet, I believe, on this structure. We were connecting 10 feet down with 36-inch RCP. As you can see, one of the obstacles on this connection was that it was at the bottom of a 20-foot embankment. So we were 10 feet deep at the connection, but as we were laying back towards the embankment, I think it was 24 feet deep. The pipe was at the top of the bank. You want to keep scrolling through. I think this was one of 2 storm chamber systems on the project. There's 2 stormwater chamber systems. One is specifically for a trench drain where de-icing, the plains are de-iced. That's this chamber system, and if you notice, it has a liner to keep that water isolated in the chamber system. The other chamber system was for another set of trench drains that where they don't put any chemicals or de-icing on the plains.
They have to pump it out and transfer it to a treatment plant?
So underneath the fabric there, underneath these chambers is 12 inches of stone. And I forget, Mark might remember, but I think there's 24 inches of concrete sand. And then there's an 8-inch perforated pipe. So the thought is the water goes down through the stone, the sand, and into the pipe. By that time, it's treated, quote unquote, and then it goes out to the storm drain system. And Ken,
Even
this
in
is
the, even in the antifreeze in the de-icing area, you mean?
yes.
Oh,
And this was Ken. I don't know if you remember, but we had to come up with the bearing strength of this native soil.
oh, yep, yep. I guess it worked.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good with this slide? I'll advance. If I can get to the next one, without overshooting. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. So there's Dylan and his crew installing water line. Behind the excavators is the apron where we had to cross, which we had to shut the taxiway down in order to do that. You can keep scrolling to the next slide. There's a good picture of where we connected up by the apron sign is where we connected to the existing water main. And you can see the barricades in the background when the taxiway is shut down. And then this road is on the left here is where the planes use that as access to the runway while we had the taxiway shut down. I think the next slide.
Coordination. A lot of coordination with the airport then.
It's a lot of coordination, and then when you think you have things coordinated and you go to do the work, they say, well, you can't do it right now. You have to wait a few hours because we weren't quite ready. So there's a good picture of the barricades that we use, those to shut the taxiway down. They have lights on top, solar powered, so at night the planes could see them.
You can see the crown of the surface there pretty clearly with those little segmental barricades. Huh?
Yep. And the runway is actually in the background. The runway.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I can keep there. Oh, okay. And this is Dylan's crew putting the water main 8-inch ductile wrapped across the apron, and you can see the thickness of the pavement. There's 9 inches of pavement there. And one of the other requirements, FAA requirements, is 100% modified compaction underneath pavement. So
that sheep foot roller worked pretty good in the sand backfill?
It did. We ended up going to the smooth drum.
Did you?
Yeah. And just because the sheep's foot was, it wasn't, because of the little feet on it were 4 inches when it went through, it wasn't giving very good compaction.
Oh, well,
compaction was there underneath, but they weren't testing that deep. So
right. Well, they weren't testing very well then. I'm sure we had better compaction with this overall, but they liked their numbers better, so they had us do it differently in a less compaction. just to have a good number.
And plus we're using native soils, so
Yeah.
Mike Ronaldo was doing Proctor's, and you know, it's a big effort to make it happen.
Yep. Yep.
And here's a great photo. I think credit Matt Orzalak on this one, of the plane landing in the background and some hydro seeding happening.
And then the whole mass cut area beyond that.
Oh, yep. So the major challenge for this project was scheduling the ECI start date. The apron site was a staging area for the Beta building project. There were stockpiles of sand, gravel, concrete, and a geothermal piping trench running right down the middle of our site. We obviously could not begin our work until the staging area was removed, and Beta was not really interested in moving the piles as there was no place to move them to. This delay ultimately made it so Beta would not have access to the taxiway over the apron this season, and we had to build them a temporary road from their hangar door to an adjacent apron to provide temporary access until the project is complete. So this following photo is a real good photo of what we were up against. So there's the Beta building, and you can see at the bottom of the screen, Jay McDonald's working. That's the area of the storm chambers. Dylan's crew just inside the fence. There's the water pipe right at the end of the taxiway. But then, can you put your arrow, your cursor on that geothermal trench?
Right here.
Yeah,
Can you
right
see
there.
mine?
So
Yeah.
that trench basically split our site in half. And then you can see all the piles of dense grade,
Right.
the trailers, then up in the top right or left corner was a giant pile of 3/4 inch stone. And there was Monash was working on the geothermal. SD Ireland was working those stockpiles every day. As you can see, the construction was going on the Beta building hangar doors. Monash was working on the stormwater, and we were laying water lines. So there's 5 different contractors working on this site when we first started going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay.
So this is Derek, I believe, Canilian, loading the mass excavation. So Derek and Nick Wilson loaded out the majority of the stuff. I'm sure they were dreaming about loading trucks in their sleep. Is the narrative below this slide, Ken?
I think so. There we go. Yep.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So the project included a mass excavation and export of what turns out is going to be 68,000 cubic yards of material when we're complete. The majority of the material was exported for approximately 6 weeks with an average of 2,200 cubic yards leaving the site per day. We had as many as 17 trucks per day hauling to multiple locations with men and equipment at each location handling the material. Approximately 10,000 cubic yards was brought to the Richmond Bridge project and used as common fill. The rest was brought to Burrard Drive and Bushy Pit. These aerial photos were taken by Beta, and they're really good photos to show our site. It's a big site. This was taken, I think, must be at the beginning of October. As you can see, that big, huge pile of stone is still in the way. So we basically chased them out of the site. Charlie did with the excavation, and we ended up having to move some of the piles, which we got paid for. So,
Cool.
but this is a good picture. You can see the runway.
Yep.
You can see taxiway G, and you can see our apron site.
Very cool picture.
Yep. I think the next one.
Blasting, drilling and
Yes.
blasting.
So, there was a blast. There was a rock item in the. There's a rock pay item, but if you looked
I
at the
think there's a-
borings,
I think you have text here below, right?
I don't. I think it got lost. I was looking through.
Oh, did it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Sorry about
Um,
that.
That's okay. There was a pay item for rock excavation, and there was soil borings given in the bid documents, but the soil borings really lead you to indicate that there wasn't going to be much ledge here. So we bid the job thinking that we could just hammer out what was there. Well, when we actually excavated the material out, there was ledge everywhere. So we ended up having to bring in Capital Rock, and we had to bring in a blasting consultant to come up with a blasting plan and do seismograph readings. And I had to develop a blasting communications plan for the project. And that communications plan had 60, almost 60 people or companies on it that we had to notify every day of the blasting activities. Every night I had to send out a email to everybody with the blasting times the next day, and then each day 30 minutes before the blast we had to send a text out, and 5 minutes before the blast another text, and then we had to text after the successful blast, and then 10 minutes before the blast we had to contact the control tower to make sure that there was no air traffic in the area. And sometimes that led to them delaying us for one time I think it was 2 hours, but
Wow.
it was it was a big process. And there's Nick setting some mats on the, or that's
Yep.
Derek setting some mats on the first blast, and then you saw the other picture was a driller Jay drilling.
Okay. And then we have the geophone doing the seismic readings.
Yeah, so this was pretty cool. This was
Yep.
a remote unit, had a modem in it that every time, recorded all day long basically, and reported back to a website, and all the information was collected from that website. We had 2 there, and Beta actually had 2 also.
So it looks like there was some sort of overblast measuring device as well as a ground seismograph underneath. The seismograph
So-
would be underneath, or the
Sandbags here.
yeah, there's a measuring
then
device
that-
under there.
The other one is a like a percussion.
Right, air blast percussion.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that up there. Yep. Okay, and then
These are some pictures from the site yesterday, and
no, this was actually a couple weeks ago, probably with rock excavation.
oh, okay, yeah.
This one and the next one. Oh, this is probably
Oh,
yesterday.
There
Oh, there,
we
that
go.
one. Right. So this one up here on the top is the last of the rock excavation photos. We got a lot of, how much of this was rock?
Neat in place was, I think it's going to be 4,000 yards, but since we were blasting, the cut was only anywhere from 1 to 4 feet.
Mhm.
The fluff was, I would say, at least 50%.
So this was yesterday.
There we go. So this is a picture of the Beta doors. This is actually the temporary 20-foot wide road that we put in for them from their doors.
And you can see the reflection of all the work going on outside on the glass.
And this is the picture where it hooks in to the airport apron.
Okay, and then. So this was yesterday, whoops, yesterday again, doing a tie-in for the water line, right?
The water line is underneath. The water line's installed, and then they're laying a storm drain over top of the water line.
Yep.
They're still working on the cup.
And then this is the last picture. This is inside.
Yeah, this building is pretty impressive.
Massive.
Yep.
Tall
That's-
and massive.
That's just the open part. On the left, there's another 50, 60 feet of 3 stories of offices, and so
Wow. Well, pretty cool.
yeah, it is.
Well, thank you, Eric. Anything else to add?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have a picture for that from the archives. This is the cargo apron repairs with ECI and SC Griswold at the Burlington International Airport in October of 2008. I don't know if I recognize anyone in there. Ronnie out there and Todd.
It was that was Tim Parent guys, and I think there's a couple of Griswold guys there too.
Yep.
I can remember
The
I was on
Greenlands.
that job. I'm not sure, that might be me over by the mixer. Yeah, that was a pretty cool job.
Yep.
The ECI Small World Truck 63, that would have been Mike Sterling as well.
Oh, cool.
Super Mike. Yep.
And with my hands in my pockets, hard to believe in a backside.
Yep. All right, good. Well, everyone have a safe day out there. I'll turn it back over to Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Tom. If you're watching a group setting, please send me a message so we can capture attendance. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
Okay, take care.